Hello, my dear students. Good afternoon. Welcome back to our science class. Yesterday, we discussed our second lesson, nutrition in animals. Animal nutrition includes nutrient requirement, mode of intake of food, and its utilization in the body. The modes of feeding vary in different organisms. Nutrition is a complex process that involves ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and egestion. All of you remember the main steps of nutrition in humans are ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and egestion. Then we discuss about human digestive system. The human digestive system that consists of the alimentary canal and secretory glands. It consists of buccal cavity, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine ending in the rectum and anus. All of you try to say together the digestive system that includes buccal cavity, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine that ending in rectum and anus. In a previous class, we discussed about the process that takes place in the mouth and buccal cavity and the food pipe and esophagus. That means the journey of food that begins from mouth and buccal cavity. When we put the food into the mouth, our teeth are powerful crushers that cut, chew, shred and grind the food. Then with the helps of our lips that hold the food and our tongue that pushes the food inside the mouth, and with the help of saliva, we have salivary glands in our mouth and cheeks which secrete a liquid called saliva. It contains many enzymes which moisten the food and break it down into small particles. Then esophagus. The esophagus is a long pipe or tube which transports the food from the mouth to the stomach. Next, we are going to discuss what processes takes place in the stomach. The stomach is a muscular organ that is located on the left side of the upper abdomen. The stomach receives food from the food pipe at one end and open into the small intestine at the other. The shape of the stomach is like a flattened J shape and it is the widest part of the alimentary canal. Motility, digestion, absorption and secretion are the four vital functions of the digestive system. The process of digestion work in the stomach is after we swallow, peristalsis pushes the food down to your esophagus into our stomach. The function of the stomach is temporary storage of food, which passes from the esophagus to the stomach, where it is held for 2 hours or longer. Mixing and breakdown of food by contraction and relaxation of the muscle layers in the stomach. Then digestion of the food takes place. The inner lining of the stomach that secretes mucus, hydrochloric acid and digestive juices. The mucus that protect the lining of the stomach and the acid that is hydrochloric acid that helps to kill many bacteria that enter along with the food and makes the medium in the stomach acidic and helps the digestive juices to act. Here you can see one video related to the digestive process takes place in the stomach. Here we can see what exactly happens in our stomach when we eat. Even before we have taken the first bite of a meal, the brain sends impulses to the stomach. These impulses that start the production of secretions in the stomach and the upper part of the stomach, which act as a reservoir and expands. The food passes into the stomach through the cardia at the stomach entrance. This is a muscle that acts like a valve that closing the top of the stomach. Then the top part of the stomach, the fundus, is where food and the air that we swallow with every bite is collected. This is where the stomach volume starts to adapt, and the fundus is an extremely adaptable structure. The more food goes into the stomach, the more it actively expands. In the middle part of the stomach, it is called the body. Gastric juice is produced and mixed with the mass of chewed food. In the middle part of the stomach, that is called the body of the stomach. Here we can see gastric juice that is produced and it mixed with the mass of chewed food. The main component of gastric juice is gastric acid. This gastric acid that helps to eliminate bacteria in the food, and it also helps to prepare the food for the following stages of the digestion. The muscular contraction of the stomach wall churn the food mass and it mixes it with the gastric juice. 3 contractions per minute move the food mass back and forth. After a certain time, the contents of the stomach are adequately break down and mixed and are passed in small quantities into the intestine via the pylorus. As the stomach empties, gradually returns to its previous size. This is the process takes place in the stomach. Okay. Then the next part involved in the process of digestion is small intestine. The food from the stomach then slowly empties its content into the small intestine. The muscles of the small intestine mix food with digestive juices from the pancreas, liver and intestine and push the mixture forward for further digestion. It is highly coiled and it is about 7.5 meters long. It receives secretions from the liver and the pancreas. Its wall also secretes juices. The small intestine has 3 parts, the duodenum, jejunum and ileum. It absorbs nutrients, minerals, carbohydrates, fats, proteins and water from the food. Small intestine is the most important gastric organ of our body. It is the main organ of the digestive system where all the digestion takes place. It lies in between the stomach and the large intestine. Most of the absorption of food and the nutrients takes place in the small intestine. It has many important roles in every bodily function. When we chew food, then swallow, it enters our esophagus, which connects with and passes the food to our stomach. The human digestive system of small intestine that receives secretions from the liver and the pancreas. The human digestive system includes several connecting glands, that is liver, gallbladder and pancreas. It is located in the right side of the abdomen. The liver is the largest gland in the human body. All of you remember the liver is the largest gland in the human body. Large blood vessels, the hepatic artery and portal veins bring at the quantities of blood that gives the liver in a reddish brown color. The liver produces many substances including bile. That bile juice that is stored in a sac, it is called the gallbladder. The human digestive system of small intestine that receives secretions from the liver and pancreas, and the liver is known as the largest gland in the human body. And liver that produce many substances including bile. That bile juice, it is stored in a sac, it is called gallbladder. The greenish colored part, it is called gallbladder. Okay children? Yes. Then the next part is pancreas. The pancreas, it is a long gland that is located under the liver. The pancreas is a large cream colored gland located just below the stomach. It also helps in the process of digestion. It secretes digestive juices that helps to decompose foods. The liver and pancreas have an important role in the process of digestion. They also play other vital roles. The liver stores large amount of sugars and vitamins. The liver is a reddish brown colored gland that is situated on the right side, and it is the largest gland in the body, and it secretes bile juice that is stored in the sac. It is called gallbladder. Okay. Then the next one is absorption in the small intestine. The digested food can now passes into the blood vessels in the walls of the intestine. This process is called absorption. In our body, absorption of food mainly takes place in the small intestine. The inner wall of the small intestine is highly folded and it has many small projections called villi. The structure of the villi is specially adapted for food absorption. We can see the inner wall of the small intestine have thousands of finger-like outgrowth. These are called villi. The structure of the villi is specially adapted for food absorption. The villi are finger-like and large in number. These features gradually increase the surface area for absorption. The villi that helps to increase the surface area for the absorption of digested food. Moreover, the epithelium of the villi is only one cell thick. This provides very short distances for diffusion of food molecules into the blood. The cell membrane of the epithelial cell has a large number of microvilli. This further increases the surface area for absorption, and each villus has a lymph vessel that is called lacteal in the center. The cell membrane of the epithelial cell has a large number of microvilli. This further increases the surface area for absorption. And each villus has a lymph vessel called lacteal in the center. The lacteal is surrounded by a network of capillaries. These allow the absorbed food molecule to be carried away rapidly. Therefore, a steep concentration gradient of molecules can be kept across the walls of the small intestine to increase the rate of diffusion of food molecules. The surface of the villi that absorb the digested food materials. The absorbed substances are transported through the blood vessels to different organs of the body where they are used to build complex substances. Dear students, today we discuss the digestive process takes place in the stomach and the small intestine. So, all of you take your textbook and open page number 16. Here we can see the next part involved in the process of digestion is the stomach. All of you try to read together. The stomach is a thick-walled bag. Its shape is like a flattened J and it is the widest part of the alimentary canal. It receives food from the food pipe at one end and opens into the small intestine at the other. The inner lining of the stomach secretes mucus, hydrochloric acid and digestive juices. The mucus protects the lining of the stomach. The acid kills many bacteria that enter along with the food and make the medium in the stomach acidic and helps the digestive juices to act. The digestive juices break down the proteins into simpler substances. In a previous class, we discussed the main steps of nutrition in a humans are ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and egestion. The esophagus, the food enters through the mouth and buccal cavity, then that moves to the esophagus, then it enters into the stomach. The stomach is a thick-walled bag-like structure and its shape is flattened J. And here we can see the inner lining of the stomach that secrete mucus, hydrochloric acid and digestive juices. The mucus helps the stomach to protect the lining of the stomach from injuries. And here the hydrochloric acid, the acid that kills the bacteria that enters into the stomach through the food. And it also helps to maintain the medium of the stomach in a acidic that helps the digestive juices to act. And this also helps to break down the protein into simpler substances. Okay children? Yes. Then the next part is known as small intestine. We know that if we observe the picture of a stomach, we can see it receives food from the food pipe at one end of the esophagus and it opens to the small intestine at the other end. Okay, the part of the stomach we can see it's one end that receives food from the food pipe of esophagus and its other end that opens into the small intestine. So, the next part involved in the digestion process is small intestine. The small intestine is highly coiled and is about 7.5 meters long. It receives secretions from the liver and the pancreas. Besides, its walls also secrete juices. Here, the small intestine, it is a highly coiled structure. It's about 7.5 meters long and it receives secretions from the liver and pancreas. We already discussed the importance of liver and pancreas. The liver is a reddish brown colored gland situated in the upper part of the abdomen on the right side. It is the largest gland in the body. All of you underline the sentence. Liver is the largest gland in the body. It secretes bile juice that is stored in a sac-like structure. It is called gallbladder. The bile plays an important role in the process of digestion of fats. Okay, after stomach, the next part is small intestine. Small intestine is a coiled structure. It is about 7.5 meters long. And it receives the secretions from the liver and pancreas. Liver is the largest gland in the body. It helps to secrete bile pigment. Okay, and it is stored in a sac-like structure. It is called gallbladder. And the important role of bile is it helps in the digestion of fat. The pancreas is a large cream-colored gland located just below the stomach. The pancreatic juice, it act on carbohydrates, fats and proteins and changes them into a simpler form. The pancreas is a large cream-colored gland that is located just below the stomach. And the pancreatic juice that acts on carbohydrates, proteins, fats and it changes them into a simpler form. It breaks down the carbohydrate, protein and fats into a simpler form. Okay, then the partially digested food now reaches the lower part of the small intestine where the intestinal juice completes the digestion of all components of the food. The carbohydrates get broken down into simpler sugar such as glucose, fats into fatty acids and glycerol and proteins into amino acids. Okay, here almost the digestion process is completed in the small intestine. Here the carbohydrates get broken down into simpler sugar such as glucose and fats into fatty acids and glycerol and proteins into amino acids. Here we can see the small intestine that receives secretions from the liver and pancreas, and the liver is the largest gland in the body that helps to secrete the bile juice, and the bile that helps for the digestion of fat, and the pancreatic juice that acts on carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and it also helps them change into a simpler form. And the almost digestion processes takes place in the small intestine, and the carbohydrate that get broken down into simpler sugars such as glucose and fats into fatty acids and glycerols, and the proteins are break down into amino acids. Then the next one is absorption in the small intestine. The digested food can now passes into the blood vessels in the walls of the intestine. This process is called absorption. Okay, the first process is digestion, ingestion, then digestion, then absorption. Absorption means the digested food can now passes into the blood vessels in the walls of the intestine. This process is called absorption. All of you underline the sentence. Then the inner wall of the small intestine have thousands of finger-like outgrowth. These are called villi. Okay, this is an important point. What is villi? Villi means in the inner wall of the small intestine we can see thousands of finger-like projections. That is known as villi. And the function of the villi that helps to increase the surface area for the absorption of digested food. The important function of the villi that helps to increase the surface area for the absorption of the digested food. Each villus has a network of thin and small blood vessels close to its surface. The surface of the villi absorbs the digested food materials. The absorbed substances are transported through the blood vessels to different organs of the body where they are used to build complex substances such as proteins required by the body. This is called assimilation. And the next process is assimilation. After absorption, the next process is assimilation. Here, the process of assimilation takes place. In the inner wall of the small intestine, we can see a finger-like projections that is known as villi. And the important function of the villi is it helps to increase the surface area for the absorption of digested food materials. And the surface of the villi that absorb the digested food materials and the absorbed substances that are transported through the blood vessels to different organs of the body. And it also used to build complex substances such as proteins that is required by the body. This is called assimilation. In the cells, glucose breaks down with the help of oxygen into carbon dioxide and water, and energy is released. The food that remains undigested and unabsorbed enters into the large intestine. Okay, here almost the process of digestion takes place in the small intestine, and in the cells, glucose that break down with the help of oxygen into carbon dioxide and water, and energy is released for the bodily activities, and the food that is remain undigested and unabsorbed that enters into the large intestine. So, the next part involved in the process of digestion is large intestine, that we will discuss in the next class. Okay children, so all of you try to read the lesson and understand the process of digestion takes place in the human body. The first part is mouth and buccal cavity, the food that enters through the mouth and buccal cavity, and then it enters into the esophagus. Through the pipe of esophagus, the food that enters into the stomach. After that, from the stomach, the food enters into the small intestine. In the small intestine, the process of digestion is almost completed, and the undigested and unabsorbed food that is enters into the large intestine. Okay, that we will discuss in the next class. Okay children, see you next class. Thank you.